Hi, this is Lady Lex UK and this is a Dreams Tools tutorial. We are working our way through sculpt mode and it's to tools section, and we've got to spray paint. Now this is a favourite tool of mine. I use this a lot. I use this to spray paint pretty much all of my character models and props, and also I make spray paint art and prop paintings for people to use in the Dreamverse. So I use this a lot, and I find that it is the best way of painting things in the Dreamverse. But let's have a look and see how you can paint things, how you can paint objects, and see how they all compare. So let me put down a cube, and we'll make 4 copies of that cube, and let's start painting them up, shall we? Right, the first method is the one that they teach you in the starter tutorials, and that is to use coat mode. So you choose coat mode, you pick a colour, you hover over what you want to paint, press R2, and it increases the tint on that until it makes the colour that you have chosen. So there we go, that's method number 1, and that is the one that is part of the tutorials for the beginners. The second method is to press L1 and square, open up the tweak menu on your object, choose a colour, move the what do you call that, the circle thing there, down with holding X, and as you can see I've chosen blue, but I'm not getting blue here. That is because the tint is at 100%. Now you would have thought 100% blue, I should get blue. You don't. You get this pink. It's a little bit of a weirdness, but you have to put the tint up to 200%, and even then you do not get this blue. As you can see, that is a completely different colour. So this is and this is also true for coat mode, you don't get the colour that you've chosen. It's one of the weirdnesses of Dreams which I don't like. It's really difficult to match colours to what you actually want it to look like. Trying to manipulate it up so it doesn't look purple and looks blue and all of that. It's quite difficult. Anyway, it's a shame that we can't match them up correctly, but that is the situation. Anyway, there we go. That's the tint method there. The other thing that I've seen people do, and I do not recommend this, but they take paint mode, get themselves a coloured paint, then they put surface snap on, and then start painting like this, trying to get to the edges and paint the object like this. Now there are a few problems with this. The main one is this. If you go over the edge like this, you end up with things like that. It's very difficult to keep within the surface without it accidentally hitting some other object, especially with objects like this. It's really difficult. It's difficult to get within the lines of the object as well, because you're dealing with this square. So it's actually quite hard, especially with round objects. It's horrendous. So it's very easy to do this, and this paint is not attached to the object. At this point, if I was to come out, the object, if I move the object, the paint stays where it is. So now you've got to try and grab the paint, and that can be difficult because it really wants to grab the sculpt, and then you scope in, so L1 and X, and then you have to lay it onto your object, try and get it so that you can see it, right, like that, and then you can move it with the object like so. It's not the best way of painting anything, but I have seen people do it. So that's the other method. And then there's a spray paint, which is the one that I think is the most easy. Let's pick a nice red and go into spray paint. Now you have to scope into the object you want to paint, so L1 and X, and then you can move the object around, or you can surface snap, and now it will definitely paint the surface of your object. And you can make your paintbrush really, really big and just press once and that's painted the whole thing. So there we go. And that is closer to the colour that you picked as well. At least you know what colour it's going to be when you actually put it on, because it's on the end of your brush. Right, so those are the 4 methods of painting. So we're going to look at this one, but let me just show you something that causes a lot of people some issues. If you have used the tint method, so if you've increased the tint, so but done it in the tweak menu, or you've done it using coat, then if you try and spray paint now, so let's go into spray paint and we'll get some white. There we go. And I'll just get a sphere. Okay, I'll scope into my object and now I'm going to paint an S shape on there. Nothing appears to be happening. You can hear the spray paint, but nothing appears on my object. If, however, I go into the tweak menu and start reducing the tint amount, you can see there it is. Now, so some people, they try to spray paint on top of, once they've coated something, and then they try to spray paint over the top and it doesn't work and they don't understand why. This is why. The spray paint is on a layer underneath the tint. Now, for most people this is an annoyance, but this could be an interesting technique. So you could have like hidden designs. So if I just, it works better if I have like a blue. So have it so it's blue. We sprayed it all blue. There we go, and it's got that S shape on it. Okay, so if we put the tint back up, and then we can, you know, the S can suddenly appear miraculously, like magic. And you can use a keyframe to do this, or you can just use numbers to send it to the tint amount here, and you could just reveal the design. So that's an interesting technique that you might want to try, using spray paint plus a tint. But for most of the time though, if you're going to spray paint, you cannot have tint on. If, however, you spray paint something and then you increase the tint, you can change the color of what you spray painted. That isn't a problem. So if I get it on 0 tint, and then I can move this around, or I can change the hue here like this, you can see that whatever you spray painting will change color with it. So you can still manipulate with this, but be aware that 200 means you've lost all the detail of your spray paint. Right, so that's the different paint methods. Let's just get rid of these. Now I use spray paint, like I say, for painting up things like character models. So if I was to put a character model down here, the way you would use the spray paint here is, for example, skin tones. Let's go with the flesh tone that they give us. Put the spray paint on. L1 and X to select the part. Press the button. So there we go. So immediately I've put flesh tones on everything that I needed. Because I had a big enough brush that took the whole of the part in. So watch out, go all the way around and make sure you have painted every side of what you're selecting. So if I was to go in here, it's very good. So I can just do a little bit down the front here. And so when I do my design, there's a little bit of flesh here, so I can put a collar on here and everything. It's really good for just doing little fine details in things like buttons. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. Things like button designs like this. Really excellent for that. And you can change the shapes of circles and spheres and filled donuts and all sorts of wonderful shapes that you can do whole designs. And textures and things like that. Now, talking about texture, it's very good for blending different colours together, which is something you can't really do otherwise. Let's just turn Surface Snap off. So, for example, a wood texture, what the method I like to use, which I find is simple, is I go Surface Snap, and I draw on my wood grain like this. I'm doing this really fast, you would take a lot more time. So there we are, I've got some wood grain on there. And then we're going to go spray paint, and you can use the turning option up here, and I recommend you put it on soft blend. And you can create some dramatic colours here like this, and you get some really interesting effects. I mean, that's random colours. You can just pick a colour, and I'm going to put that on full opacity, and this is very good for blending. So you get a nice blend of the colours that you're putting on. The opacity down. So there we go, we've got a nice wood effect, which has got a nice variated colour to it. That's a nice, easy, quick way of making wood. I do a lot of paintings. So Surface Snap off again. What I like to do is make a canvas. Pick the colour of the block that I want to do, then put my canvas down. And this is something that you need to be aware of. Spray paint can look very, very soft. There we go. So let's Surface Snap, and let's put a square down. This looks quite soft on the edges, and sometimes that's a nice look, but that might not be ideal when you're trying to do fine detail. So in order to get a better detail on that, you need to increase the density of the fleck. So you go into Sculpture Detail, press triangle, which will increase, and then press R2 until it goes red. And now you can see how much more detail on that blue block there is. There we go. As you go down, you see how blurrier it gets, and then how crisper it gets. So if you've got an issue with crispness when you're spray painting and making a painting, you can increase the fleck density of your canvas, and that will help with your paint. It will increase the thermo. So if you're making a prop painting, it's probably best not to have it too high, because it could make your prop painting worth about 20% thermo, which is a little bit high for prop. You want to try and keep it down under 10. I like to keep mine at around 6% or less, but it's worth experimenting with. Just changing the density of your canvas makes a huge difference to what you can draw and the shapes that you can do. Now, let me just show you shading and how to do that in the Dreamverse. I like to do lots of portraits. So I tend to use the sphere as my brush. Round shapes I find are much easier to paint, and it's more like what you would get with a spray paint can anyway. So there we go. So there's my face. So then you could take a slightly darker version. That is very dark, but we go with L1 and square, and then I'm going to increase that soft blend, and that will give me the option to soft blend like that, but it's still a little bit to find. So I'm going to put the opacity down to nothing, right down to the bottom. And now if I just zoom in a bit, I can hold R2 and just lightly paint, and as you can see, we are starting to get a shade that's not too defined. It's creating depth. And then we can go, this is our original colour, we can then pick a slightly paler version, just drag it with X into here and press save colour, and then we've got this new colour over here, and then we can spray like this, or I prefer just to use the white. And you can blend edges like this, so you can get things that just seem to fade off into the distance like this. Look at that. There we go. So this is something that you can't do with the coat or the paint flex. This is something unique to spray paint. You've got a lot more control over what you see. Now, there is an issue with spray paint in that there is a limit to how many paint strokes it allows you to do per object. And if you're doing a very complicated painting, and if you've done lots of corrections and things like that throughout, you might run out of paint flex. Now, Nivi Artist also does spray paint paintings, and he likes to plan out his pictures by cutting them out in different shapes. That way he's got more objects than just one. He hasn't just got one canvas, he's got like objects that you can then spray paint individually, and he has much more spray paint available, but you have to plan these things out in advance. It's not something you can do after the fact, because once you've used up all of your spray paint fleck shapes, you can't delete them, you can't add any more, and your painting's done. So you've got to watch for that. And the thermometer, even if you've got the thermometer on, it doesn't tell you how many paint flecks you've got left until you start hitting really high numbers. Then you get this special thermometer comes up and tells you you're running out of paint shapes. So it's something to be aware of if you started doing spray paint paintings. I've got a bit better at it. One thing that I don't recommend you do is if you've done a design and you don't like it, don't be tempted to just erase it with some paint over the top. Delete it with the left D-pad. That is much better. Otherwise you're going to run out of paint strokes really quickly, so be very careful when you're doing that. It's things that you learn as you go, and it's really worth it just to keep experimenting, keep doing it over and over and over again, learn different techniques, play about with this. There's things that I haven't shown you, like for example you can do a thing with a hole. Let's just, I've got white so I can't see it. There we go. We've got circle stamp, which is very, very useful. You can choose hexagons like this. Trying to get the angle is interesting, but it means that you can do all sorts of design work on your object, and you can create texture like we did with the wood there. So lots you can do. Experiment with it. Hope you enjoy the spray painting tool. I have a lot of fun with it. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in your dreams.